everyone, welcome to Kusum Vet Planet. This video is about those veterinarians who want to make their career in private practices. So for this, we have with us Dr. Lakshmi Srinivasan ma'am. She is the director and chief vet of Animal Care Clinic, Hyderabad. She has done her graduation and post-graduation from Telangana Veterinary University. She has done her PG in surgery and became the gold medalist in her MVSC. Dr. Lakshmi ma'am is the one of the first vet responsible for implementing the VETS program through Abhay, PFA and the Blue Cross of Hyderabad. She has performed over 15,000 surgeries on different animals. She is the first lady and South Indian clinician to be awarded the PACE, an All India award given for the maximum contribution by a private practitioner to the veterinary profession. Dr. Lakshmi ma'am has attended several symposiums and seminars both in India and abroad to keep abreast with the current trends and therapies on various subjects like dermatology, oncology, vaccination, and guidelines and immunology. She is the secretary of NVF and national lady convener of IVA. Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to Kusum Vet Planet. Thanks for coming and taking out time for this video.
Thank you, Kusum. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as you have so many experience in the private practice, so I would like to ask you a few questions regarding this field. So, shall we start, ma'am?
Yeah, please go ahead, Kusum. I'm ready.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to start you from asking by what are the scope for UG and PG students in private canine practice?
Right. So, as you know, private canine, it's just not canine, I would say small animal practice. I'll just change it because now people are also adopting lots of cats, lot of exotic pets. Okay, so small animal practice, it is a vast, field because when you increase the scope of small animal, there are so many more species there and so many more specializations that people can have. And as a UG student itself, in the beginning, I think to practice for at least 1 or 2 years in a small animal practice is important because you will then understand what your interests are and what the requirement is of the field, and then can pursue to do a PG in that subject. So post graduation need not necessarily be through the university. There are plenty of courses online, and you get courses from abroad, certification from abroad. I know people who are taking up, so anything like, physiotherapy, psychology, nutrition, acupuncture. Of course, everyone knows the, regular surgery, medicine, radiology, but in those also there are different, sub-subjects. So you can see that. And also, please don't forget your paraclinical subjects, clinical pathology, microbiology, your biochemistry, parasitology. These are all, as I would say, the backbone of your clinical subjects. So you would, if you have an interest there, also there's a huge scope. So I think UG people should actually work for about a year or two, and take up, in a small animal practice, and then start checking to see what you would like to do, and then take it from there on.
Ma'am, my next question to you, how do veterinary students should prepare and learn small animal practice, and which areas like surgery, medicine and diagnostic are more challenging and more rewarding?
Yeah. So for actually small animal practice, see, one thing we veterinarians should understand is that especially I'm seeing, the difference between, our time and children who are coming now. So far, I've been in practice for the past 29 years, almost 30 years this year. And I've seen, I don't even know how many veterinarians have come and gone through the practice, and I know from them. The thing is, it's very good that nowadays the veterinarians who are coming out are more exposed, and they're more exposed to the new diagnostic skills and, ways of treatment and everything. But what is very important is that you must be prepared to work long hours and long tiring hours. So it's a profession of passion, I would say. You should, it's something that comes from our heart. So preparation mostly comes, by mental preparation, I would say. You should be mentally prepared to do this, and it takes a lot of emotional and physical, effort from our side, and we should be able to give this. And in the beginning, monetarily, it may not be very rewarding, Because in the beginning, what is happening is you should understand, as you're coming out of the UG or even a PG, you do not have the amount of clinical exposure that it takes in a private practice. There's a huge difference between what is being taught in the college, because that is a level, but private practice is completely different. And dealing with clients, dealing with new equipment, dealing with the situation, you are actually going through, I would say, an externship or an internship of sorts. So it is mostly, you should regard it as that. And so take 2 years to join any kind of private practice. Learn, join to be a team player, learn to see how to do things, and learn from scratch. So don't throw away all your anatomy, physiology books. Keep them; they're very useful, because once you are in practice, only will you be able to put the dot together. Then only everything comes together. And a private practice, it's the challenge that client expects out of you, the level, that's a challenge that you need to meet, and you need to brush up everything, and then it will make sense, and you'll have to have a mentor of some sort to help you go through this. So take up a job in a private practice and start from there.
So, ma'am, except this subject, what about the importance of personality development and communication skill in private practice?
Yes, that is most important. I would say, because the client comes, personality. You have very clearly said this is a very, very important part of things, which is not taught in our college, and this is where it is really why I'm saying join a practice is this particular thing. Personality development. You need to learn to be a team player. You need to be able to, because you will be in an establishment where there will be older veterinarians, colleagues. There will be para-veterinarians who have got, para staff who have got loads of experience, and you have come in with skills which you are not very sure of, and people may challenge, you, and then you feel that you do not know much. And at the same time, if you will be thinking, a person who is not very educated, like a para staff, is knowing more than me, or this sort of thing. So you need to be open-minded when you come in and be a team player. And it's a lot of emotional, I would say, it's stressful. And at the same time, clients also, they can be very, very demanding. So that is also there, and especially because, as pets have become, pets, clients are not clients, they're pet parents. And pets are, for babies in the house. So they are dealing with that high sense of emotion. So 2 years is really what is emotional, and that is personality development and communication skills. You need to be able to communicate. So half the treatment is done by communication itself. So when the client comes to here to talk to a doctor, your communication and listening skills, I would say. So more than communication, also your listening skills is very important for you to develop, to learn to listen to what they are trying to say, clients are trying to say, as well as you need to learn to communicate what you are trying to tell the client very clearly. And you also be able to communicate to your team members what you want and how you want to learn from them. So these are very, very important skills, that you need to, hone. And these 2 years is what exactly, these are the two skills that you will be learning rather than anything.
So, ma'am, is canine practice or small animal practice limited to big cities only?
Not at all. So you are seeing right now. In fact, I'm here in Kerala, and I've been, I'm actually the Lady Wing IVA president of the Lady Wing national convener, and I've come here and I'm meeting all the veterinarians here, and here, so even in the districts, they have got 24-hour hospitals, from the Kerala government, and they've also got, veterinarians who are practicing. They are saying that they are, I was asking them, what is the kind of animals that they are treating? So people have, in the districts and the second, two-tier, third-tier cities also, people who are having farms, farm animals, they are also having pets. They are also having fish. They are also having birds. And so it is not limited to, the city practice. In fact, now more and more pet practice and all of that is going to the tertiary cities. Second thing, there is breeders, they're breeding animals in the, not in the main cities. They're all breeding in the second tier and third tier cities, because labor is cheaper there and there's more space available. And for the dogs to, to have a kennel and other things there. and even breeding of animals, birds, cats, dogs, everything is happening there. And where the animals, there the veterinarian is required. And so but this sort of small animal practice is extending more to third and tertiary, second and tertiary tertiaries also. So that is a new thing that is coming up now.
Ma'am, most of the students want to know that what is the expected remuneration for UG and PG student in clinical subject.
Yeah. So this is a very important question, and that's what you have to understand. So it depends where you are coming from and depends on the skill level. UG, I would say anyone on the base salary, they would start off at 30,000 rupees in the beginning. So that would be depending upon where you are. So 25 to 30,000 would be the basic beginning salary, and then as your skill is improving, of course that will be topped up. In a private practice, you will not find big salaries like in the government, because in the private practice, mostly you see you have to understand that you are getting opportunity to work and to learn. And the private practice runs, it has to make the money to pay you. It doesn't have ready-made money to pay you like the government. So you need to earn your salary, and you need to justify. Even if it's 30,000 rupees, suppose we are a BVSC, even I was in that once, a fresher. I had come out, I wanted to run a private practice, and the first private practice they offered me was 800 rupees as my salary. This is thing, and I said, what? I got a stipend of 1,200 rupees, and you're offering me 800 rupees. Then that person said, stipend is stipend, but what do you learn there? I hear you are going to learn everything. My skills I'm teaching you. So you are being paid to learn. So, and here you may not even be earning me that 800 rupees in a month, whereas I'm paying you for that, just for your presence being here. So this is what you need to understand. Don't look at it as a salary. Look at it as a stipend, a better stipend, and where you are going to be learning. And as you increase, as your skills increase and your responsibility increase and your contribution to the practice increases, naturally your boss would like to share further. Your team leader would like to increase your salary accordingly. So some practices may be a salary. Some practices they may be what is called as base plus incentive. So when you are earning X amount of money for the practice, some percentage of that is passed on to you. So here it's in a practice, it grows together. You have to grow the practice, and therefore you have to grow your salary. And as for the UGs, PGs also, similarly, you can add a 5,000 rupees more. So they may start off with a 30 or 35,000 rupees, depending on where you are. Okay, this is the minimum base I'm talking about. I'm not talking about maximum. I'm talking about minimum base. And similarly, that's how it goes. So this is the salary or I would say this is the stipend, I would call it, rather than a salary.
Yes.
Expected. Yeah.
Then, ma'am, what kind of advantage and disadvantage are there for UG student without specialization in private practice?
Yeah. So advantage for the UG student is very advantage, I'll say, because your mind is clear. You've got you're fresh from your BVSC, and actually when we are in a clinical practice, we need to use all our BVSC skills mostly. 70% is our skills that we are learning in BVSC. Your medicine, your surgery, gynecology, clinical pathology, microbiology. These are the skills that you are having, and when you pass out as UG, you have all of these skills, in your mind fresh, and so you will not be limited to thinking in one direction. So as a surgeon, you may be limited to thinking only surgery. If you're PG. So that is an advantage for a UG student to join. You have got all the knowledge, and you can apply it. And you can also choose which sort of field you are interested in. You are not limited to your PG subject. And that is for UG. The disadvantage for UG is that you are not able to deal with everything at a second level, higher level. But you may not be needed to. You may need to deal with higher things because your colleague or your senior may be there who will help you. Okay. The other disadvantage for a UG is, of course, you will be paid lesser than a PG student, PG person, but that is only in terms of monetary. So I would say that's the advantage. These are the advantages. But advantages for PG obviously is they get a better salary, and they may be probably earning more because they will be contributing more to the practice there. The disadvantage is that they will be limited in their subject. So sometimes if it's a surgeon and a surgery case, and you've got a dog with a medical problem coming in, you may not have the skills or because 2 years have gone past or any more years after you finished your UG, you may not remember so much of medicine, to be able to deal with it. So that is a disadvantage of a PG, immediately. So therefore, I advise UG students very strongly that you must take up minimum 2 years. In a private practice, if you are thinking, first of all, you must have a very clear mind of what you want to do in future. If you want to do private practice, then you should be able to sacrifice those 2 years for learning, and then take it further. So that is important, So that's my advice for UG and PG students.
Ma'am, why did you select the veterinary profession and then moving to private practice rather choosing government job?
Yeah, that's so. I thought I'd become a vet when I was in class 4. So I don't know why. I think the reason was because I had animals all around, and I'm an only child, no siblings. But definitely that time I had lost my dog. My dog, which is a female dog. My mother took her to the government hospital to get her spayed, neutered, and I didn't see her again. She died. I'm not blaming the situation. 30, this is nearly 42 years ago, 40 years ago. So you can imagine the status of veterinary science then, and clinically. And for some reason, the dog didn't come back home, and I think that hurt me a lot, or that motivated me. That I think I wanted to. I felt that if we would have been able to help out further, or I don't know what motivated me. Probably that is one memory that I can remember. So it was always the fact that I wanted to be a vet. There's no other doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a vet. So even though the rest of my classmates wanted to do medicine, I still wanted to be. I got into a medicine seat, but I still took up veterinary. And so here I am. And as for private practice, I did join the government service. I was gold medalist, and I finished my PG in surgery. And so I was put in the premier. Polyclinic in the city of Hyderabad. 9 months I worked there. I really enjoyed my government practice, because the one thing with government practice is that you do not need to find out where your money is going to come, your salary is going to come. Whatever it is, they will pay you end of the month. But with private practice, you need to earn your salary, your salary. So, but the only reason that made me not get into the government was the fact that a lot of paperwork and lot of administrative work and lot of things that I may have, so there are a lot of restrictions in the government. Along everything has got advantage and disadvantage. So, and I could not deal with that restriction, and my pace of work was much faster than what the government. So, therefore, I quit. I said, I want to do my own practice, and I started off my private clinic at that time. And so that's where I am today. I'm in 40 now. It's been 30 years, and this is where I am.
Yes, ma'am. And being a lady vet, what are the challenges faced by the lady vet in private practices?
Yeah, and so challenges are really very big challenges. First of all, it is our energy levels that we need to have and be able to hold animals and other things, that physical strength is required. Secondly, you are dealing with male paravets, who are male para staff, who may not respect or regard you as their to give you give them orders. They may not even bother, because they are societally they are regard their women to be just people who take care of the house and produce children. They do not expect to take orders from women. So that is a challenge that we will face. The other challenge is that we will be that in the night, for night duty or night practice, so you are always put into a little bit of disadvantage there. You feel threatened because of your, in a place you feel insecure being a woman in a, at doing night duty, because you do not have a big setup like a hospital. For women doctors, you may have a hospital setup where they will have other people and other things. But in a private practice, it usually is a small setup. You will not have more than one or two people, and so you feel insecure. So that is the thing. And even clients may not, regard women to be, that the same thing. The male domination, society, they may not think that you have got much to say, as a woman veterinarian. So that is a big disadvantage. And of course, we get married, we sometimes have to leave our home and go to where our husband stays. So there's a hiatus in our work, and of course we get pregnant and we get kids. So for me, the challenge was that I had private practice in my own home, move homes, and then pregnancy, childbirth, bringing our children, managing the work-life balance, home as well as work, is very challenging. And yes, so the only way I could overcome it is, with help from colleagues. And so I worked through my pregnancy. Also, I took a very short break, childbirth, after childbirth. But then once my children were old enough to be carried, I used to bring them into the clinic only, because they used to be there, and I used to work along with that, because so this is a huge challenge. And we also sometimes people do not have maybe sometimes the luxury to do that. They have to stop working, but that should not become a deterrent for you to go back. In fact, I would say that women that at that time can start taking courses at home and improve their skills and their knowledge. So every disadvantage should be taken with a positive way, and try to make it into a positive moment. So this is definitely women have different physical and challenges, work-life balance and things like that. But I think the majority of veterinarians now are small animal practitioners are women all over the world. We have huge advantage that we are compassionate, and we are able to relate, and we are gentle with the small animals. And so I think we should take those advantages are a lot more than disadvantages in being a woman veterinarian.
As you have mentioned, two courses, online courses, can you please repeat them?
Yeah, so you can actually get on to, say, the University of Sydney, the Australian University, Sydney. They have plenty of online courses. Royal College Veterinary Science, Royal College, RVC has got plenty of online courses. There are private institutions who do online courses, courses like ECVAS. They have got partial, online and offline courses. So you can do some online and go and do offline also, and do some core subjects there and come back. So many universities are there which offer, including our Indian universities are offering. So I think people should just go online and check. It's all available there, and it's worth putting in the money. They're expensive, no doubt about it. It's important that you have to spend on education, because later on you are going to be able to get earn from that only. So many are them available, and they also give you certificates from abroad. So University of Massey, New Zealand has got. So many universities have got these online courses you can take them.
Ma'am, I'm very honored to have you on my channel. So, ma'am, in the end, any message for budding vets planning for private practice or small canine practices?
Yeah. So the only thing is, I would say, budding vets there, you should have your goals very clear. Okay. No success comes without hard work and time. So we have to understand that it's a long, hard journey, and but the success is there, and this is the most I would say booming profession at this point. You have to be very proud to be a veterinarian, first of all. Okay. And you are in the happening time at this point, whereas veterinarians and a small animal veterinary practice is bound leaps and bounds. It is growing everywhere around in the world. It has become saturated. India is still the place where it is there. So please, come educate yourself well. Open your minds, to toil for the first 2 years or 3 years to make a mark. Okay, you cannot think that you can be successful in a day. No one in any profession can be that way. Okay, so just because we have a BVSC degree doesn't make us doctors immediately. We have a lot to learn, and life is, and the clinical practice is what teaches us. So you have to be brave, and but also understand that we are doing the best profession in the world, and you are in the best place that you can be. So that is what should push you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your all the words and your all the experiences you shared with us definitely will promote all the students. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out the time from your busy schedule. I'm very honored.
Yeah.
Seriously, ma'am.
Thank you, Kusum. It was lovely speaking to you. This is really a fantastic initiative you're doing, and this is really important for the children who are coming out to have a very clear focus of what they should do, because so many choices and so much of confusion is there. It's very good initiative on your part. It's a pleasure speaking with you, Kusum.
So
All
much,
the best
ma'am.
for the. Yeah. Thank you.